Coming back on the James Show, Kate Lincoln-Goldfinch, an immigration attorney. Your thoughts on the mayor's comments on deporting illegal criminals?
Well, I think what we're going to see is that there are different localities that respond in different ways. And so we're going to end up with a mishmash where in places like, Bastrop County, for example, there'll be cooperation between law enforcement and the federal authorities, and we'll see immigration raids and roundups. My personal opinion is that local police agencies are not equipped nor experienced enough to be immigration enforcers, and that asking them to do that is a risk to public safety because it really it discourages for the immigrant community from cooperating as witnesses to crimes, to calling in if they are victims of crimes. It really fractures the relationship between immigrants and the police, which is a problem for public safety, across the board.
All right, so I'm not a big fan of the military doing it. You're saying the local police shouldn't do it. Who should deport criminal illegals?
Well, the Department of Homeland Security has a $100 billion annual budget, and there's very easy ways to target immigrants who have criminal histories. That's not a difficult thing to do. So the Department of Homeland Security could easily go after, people who are considered enforcement priorities. Now, when you expand it and say anyone who is undocumented is now a priority, well, that's when we have a resource problem. But of course, the result of going after the entire undocumented population in the United States is going to be really detrimental to our economy, which I think we're frankly all going to see in the first part of next year, because I anticipate that the Trump administration is going to move forward with its threats. And that's when we run into a resource problem, and that's when we see things like national emergency declared and the National Guard pulled in and, local police agencies pulled in. So I think that's what we're going to see. I don't think that is in anybody's interest, however.
So when you say Homeland Security, so you mean people like ICE, maybe Border Patrol, Customs Enforcement,
right.
Things like that?
Yeah, so DHS, of course, is an umbrella agency, and then underneath that is Border Patrol, ICE, Enforcement and Removal Operations is the obvious agency to do that.
So what do you think is going to happen if, like, we have our mayor here in Dallas saying that he will help out with deporting criminal illegals, but the mayor of Denver said he wants no part of it. In fact, he's going to actively tell his cops to not cooperate. Is that going to cause another, migration of illegals to sanctuary cities? Like, will we see a bunch of people leave places like Dallas and go to places like Denver?
I do think we're going to see immigrants leaving the state of Texas, for example. And I know, especially if Senate Bill 4 goes into effect and all of the police around the state can be arresting immigrants. I think we see statewide movements. I don't know that there's really that people are changing their lives because of local policies, but I do think we're going to see a real hodgepodge of the application of immigration enforcement all throughout the United States, and we're going to see a bunch of jurisdictional battles between, what are the local authorities doing, what's happening at the state level, what are the feds doing. We're going to see just a ton of lawsuits, a ton of, due process violations, families separated. I mean, it's going to be extremely chaotic if the Trump administration does what it has said it will do, which is just sort of this wide swath, picking up everybody who's undocumented. And the way that they're probably going to do that is through these local agreements with law enforcement agencies, through workplace raids, through, traffic stops, through sending ICE out to people who have removal orders. I think we're just going to see a lot of actions in a lot of different ways, and it's going to be probably pretty shocking, would be my guess, is what we see in January.
Well, as an immigration attorney, if someone calls in and says, listen, I'm an illegal immigrant, I got a decent job or whatever, but do I need to pack up and get the hell out of here? What would you say?
Tell people is the first thing you need to do is consult with an immigration lawyer, find out if there's a way for you to obtain legal status. There is a way for a lot of people who are here undocumented to get status, maybe through family, maybe through employment, maybe through a humanitarian case. The second thing people need to do is have a safety plan in place. Where are our important documents? Do we have valid, up-to-date passports? Do the kids have U.S. passports if they're born here in the United States? What's the family plan? Who's going to pick up the kids if mom and dad get arrested? Does that person have permission to go to the school and pick up these children? Do we know how to access the bank accounts? Like actually making a plan for what it will look like if the parents get picked up is what I'm telling people to do right now.
All right. What if there is an absolutely beautiful illegal immigrant in about her 20s or so? Could she marry Garrett and be safe, get some papers that way? Garrett's my producer on the board over there. I'm just pointing at him. I'm taken, so we can't do this hypothetical with me.
So there are ways to get green cards through family, through marriage to a U.S. citizen, and the process for that depends. The history of the immigrant will define how they get the green card. This is one of the programs. Like there was a parole program that Biden announced and started in August. Ken Paxton sued against the program. A conservative federal judge blocked the program, and so hundreds of thousands of people who are actually immigrants married to U.S. citizens had their cases just put on hold and canceled because the way to get a green card for those people otherwise takes 6 years. They have to leave the country. They don't have protection against deportation. It's really an absurd system, and it's the reason I say ultimately at the end of the day, we know as a nation we need immigrants. We know that our legal system doesn't serve our economic needs. So instead of all of this back and forth and battle, if we could ask Congress to get together and actually pass an immigration reform package that would support the needs of our nation, everything else would be resolved. But we can't. Congress just hasn't been able to do that, and that's what's so frustrating. It's like all of this noise and this nonsense is not actually solving anything.
All right, this is Kate Lincoln-Goldfinch, immigration attorney with her own law firm, Lincoln-Goldfinch Law. How do they find you?
Lincoln-Goldfinch Law, you can find me online, or for the Spanish speakers, it's a lot easier to look up Abogada Kate.
Abogada. Do you speak Spanish?
I do, yes.
Okay, that is super helpful for an immigration attorney, I imagine. Thank you very much, Kate, for being on The Jane Show.